what I try to do is I try to pay people fairly well. So when I interviewed people, I told you I did like an automated recorded interview, and the system that I used, I could ask like 6 questions, and one of those questions was, how much would you like to be paid for the job that I've described? And I think the most common answer was like $8 or $9. It was pretty low. I was surprised. Um, I never paid that though. I started people at $12, $13 an hour, and pretty quickly, if they stayed with me for, if I could tell that they weren't going to flake right away, I would get them to 15 pretty quickly. So I try to pay people well. I mean, it's tough work, and once someone's up and trained and doing the work, I just don't want to hire someone again. So I paid people well. I try to give them a bonus whenever they generate a lead, and this can vary depending on the product that you sell. Like sometimes, like some of the campaigns we would do, the appointments would be there would be a lot of appointments per campaign, and then some campaigns there would be less appointments, not because that we were doing a less of good of a job, but if you're calling, let's say, Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 companies at a C level, it's going to take you a while to get those appointments. Or if you call small businesses and you're calling business owners, you might get more appointments because it's easier to get in. So where I'm going with that is that to figure out the amount of bonus for your caller, you need to kind of think about how difficult it is for them to get the appointment. But I would usually do between $20 to $50. 1099 versus W2. To do this properly, you want to have some sort of employment paperwork from them. And 1099 is basically an independent contractor, and W2 is an employee. I've researched this subject. I will say I'm not an expert in employment legal terms or policies or rules, but I have researched 1099, which is basically independent contractor. And if you hire someone to do a job and they do it on their own equipment, they do it on their own schedule, and they do it without instruction, they can be a 1099. And so for the most part, using these work at home agents, they meet most of that. With my agents, there's a little bit of the training that might be in the gray area because I'm giving them a little bit of training and instruction, but I'm not really giving them that day-to-day, management and schedule and whatnot. So it's kind of a gray area. You could probably get by with 1099 if you want to cover all bases and you want to work with someone long term or do it right. W2 employee status might be the right way. I typically hired people part time because I didn't want someone working 40 hours a week because it's such grinding work. I typically hired people to work between 10 to 20 hours a week, and I felt like that worked best for me. A few management tips, and this again, our goal is to minimize turnover. Although with management, it's also to get results, but some tips regarding not pushing someone out the door. Never lose sight that cold calling is difficult, and I think it's very easy in this area for people to be like, where are the leads, where are the leads, you're not doing, to be real critical and pushy and try to to push someone to draw to reach their results. And so I think that you always need to keep in mind that cold calling is extremely difficult. It's very mentally taxing. It's a tough deal. And so keeping that in mind with how you manage your caller and is helpful. So that can allow you to be more understanding or more sympathetic or more communicate with them in a way that makes them more comfortable. But the one thing that I always did is, again, you hear people that manage cold callers, and it's all about how many leads did you generate today? Where are the leads? Where are the leads? How many appointments did you schedule? And so I'm real big on, I'm going to focus on the inputs versus the output. So the inputs are, how many dials are they making? How many dials per hour? Are they following the script? Are they dealing with objections correctly? What objections are they getting shot down by? Are they following the game plan? And so I harp on those instead of saying where are the leads, because I believe if I've given them the right sort of direction, and if they work hard and follow my direction, then the leads will happen. So that's just sort of what I always did, and I think that creates a healthier environment, and it provides more clarity and direction for that caller in a very challenging environment. And then just using the carrot more than the stick. Hey, you did great. I like how you handled that situation. But not only monetary rewards, but also words of encouragement and recognition. I think reporting is really important. So I would always give my callers a weekly scorecard, and some just you could put a lot of different things on their scorecard, but some of the key things that I always put was the total hours they worked, and that broken up by calling hours and then non-calling hours, how many dials they made, and so you can just basically take the call hours, the dials divided by the call hours, and that will give you the dials per hour, how many leads they produced. I think this is really important. For the reporting to the caller is important for a number of reasons. It gives them visibility on how good of a job they're doing, how hard they're working. Makes them more accountable. You can use this report, and the one that I show that is an example here. You can see a trend if their call dials per hour is starting to go down or whatnot. From a coaching standpoint, I mean, if you want to be very involved, I would recommend coaching weekly. I think coaching weekly is better than like micromanagement coaching, where you might do it every day or throughout the day, and you might coach them between calls. It could just be overwhelming, too much. It makes the caller uncomfortable. I like to just sort of set a caller free, let them do their thing, let them work through the instruction that I've given them up until that point, and then after the week, I'm sorry, on the first day of the next week, then we can review, give them a couple things to work on. A key thing that I like to focus on when coaching is objections. So what objections are you running into? One of the neat things about SalesScripter is that it provides I showed you how we logged a call, and we were able to log the objections that came up on that call. Well, SalesScripter will actually keep track of all the objections that are coming up. So if you have your caller logging all of their objections, then you can very easily, when you're doing coaching, come to this screen and see what objections they're running into, and talk about those with them. When that comes up, what are you saying? Do you feel like that's working well? Do we need to work on a better response? So this tool can make your sales coaching a lot easier, especially referring to objections.